Welcome in to Red River North right here on Total Coverage Sports. Randy Heitz, Dave Myrick, 1077 The Franchise, here to talk all things portal. And Randy, I don't know if you heard or not, Joe Castiglione out at OU, and they hired this new guy. Talked a little bit today. Mr. Denny comes from Illinois. It looks like they basically snagged a lawyer to be the AD, is pretty much everything I gather from reading about him.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I did, and it's kind of funny to see fans' reactions and everything. But, I think we knew coming in that this was not going to be your normal AD hire, Dave. I mean, like, it's kind of like everyone's trying to get adjusted and figure out what role the AD is going to have. And I know you watched some of that today. I've read a bunch on him, and it seems like he's a guy that's dealt with some collective bargaining type stuff, things that I think for the college sports fan, you may not like to hear it, but if you wanted to kind of get back to normal without the transfer portal being loaded, college athletics are going to have to go to a collective bargaining agreement, you know? And maybe this is just steps in the right direction. And to be honest with you, what do fans really know about athletic directors?
Nothing, man. It's all about the hires they make. That's about it. I think nowadays, especially, the role is so different. Randall Stevenson, of course, had said he's going to take the athletics chair at Oklahoma, and then this guy Denny will be over football. I don't buy that. I think Randall Stevenson will still be pretty much running football along with Jim Nagy. Randy, it's pretty evident they've got a plan of kind of what they want to do and how they want to build this thing up. That's good, right? They know what they want to be identity-wise. There's no way to tell if it's the right move until we get years down the road and kind of see how this thing pans out.
And I think that's what I go with to your exact point. Not only for Oklahoma, I don't think until we get years down the road, we're going to know if it's the right move for any athletic department because this is such a wild, wild west right now of college athletics and what's going on, what's changing daily, weekly. I mean, we'll be honest, there's tampering all over the portal. I mean, there's a reason why Mensa from Duke gets in the portal on the last day, even though he's got another, $3 million or whatever coming to him. Miami tampered with him. Not saying right, wrong, or indifferent. Every school is doing it. I'm just saying, so until we figure out where we're going to lie, where this is going to end, no one knows what the right move is. And I'll be honest, Joe Castiglione, fabulous athletic director. But when he came from Missouri, what all he had done in Missouri, really, when you get down to it, football had done well. Basketball started going the other direction under him. It's not like it's not like he was the world beater. He wasn't the Joe Castiglione that he is now. When Oklahoma got him from Missouri, so everyone that wants to burn this hire already, just let it marinate. Give it time. We don't know what anything's going to be.
I get both sides of this. I get what you're saying. Give it time. I get fans that immediately looked and they were like, "Who in the hell is this guy?" And it's none of the people they had been looking at for the last 3 months as a possible replacement. It's not your traditional AD that would step in that's well known, and he's a lawyer stepping in to an athletics role. But I think when people kind of put two and two together about where we are with the landscape of college athletics nowadays and to what Oklahoma just hired, it becomes pretty evident what exactly they're trying to do and get out in front of. I mean, they're so far ahead of the curve, I think, and I want to say that it's all been good moves and it's the right trajectory. But again, we just won't know. And to your point, Joe Castiglione coming, I don't remember those days very well as far as media, what was said. You probably have a lot better grasp. I don't think there was a big celebration thrown when they hired Joe Castiglione. It was just kind of like a name. He's done very well at Oklahoma. The softball program is, I think, the best of all time. But, Randy, it's probably time for a change. I mean, some things are kind of lagging behind under his leadership. I think OU basketball needs some serious looking into. I think that OU baseball has taken some right steps. Finally, it's taken a while to get there, but I think it was time for all parties concerned. And I like the hire and the future forward thinking of OU with this.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. And it's not ripping Joe. And to your point, what it was like, people thought it was a really good hire when they hired Joe C. But again, he wasn't the godfather that we all like to call him now. He wasn't that stroke. What he did at Oklahoma is what got him to that level. So let's see what Roger Denny does at Oklahoma. I mean, I thought one of the good things I saw Toby Rowland tweet last Friday after it came out, he had done some research. Roger Denny, I think it was $100 million he got donated to the football program in Illinois that he was overseeing there. Largest donation ever in Illinois football history. So things like that, that's what the athletic director's role is going to be. I'm not going to say he's a master at getting donations, but at least there's a feather in his cap. Granted, it has to do with what donors they have and everything like that. But still, he found that money. Let's see what Roger Denny can do. And I'll be honest, this is not being an OU guy. I'm actually kind of happy with the hire because I was really worried when they were going down this path because we heard all about what's changing, what the role is going to be of the athletic director. And I think this is kind of the perfect combination. You've got a guy that's now been in an athletic department for some years, but he also has the legal background and everything. There was this nightmare scenario in my head that they're going to go hire this executive from Amazon, because, just because they said they didn't know what it was going to be. And I was
Yeah.
like, God, you're going to go hire, they're going to end up hiring somebody that's a huge name, but has zero, and I mean zero athletic experience. And I was like, this could just be ugly, And so at least the fact that he's got years at both, I like this might end up being the perfect for both, for the whole thing. And no matter what, you're right. Everything's been behind a little bit, especially basketball. I think it's good, whoever it was, because it's going to be a fresh perspective, especially on the men's program, to come in and hopefully just clean house.
Yeah, I texted Chris Foshi immediately, like it should have been you, man. If they just wanted an attorney into sports, it's right up your alley. Those of you that don't know, Chris Foshi, a colleague of ours, calls a local high school attorney in Oklahoma, or Moore, Oklahoma. Great, great guy. Rant, look, I agree. And again, we can just judge this on the surface, what we think it looks like. You got guys in place like Jim Nagy, Randall Stevenson that really know OU and OU football. And then this guy to kind of handle the legal expertise on the back end. So I think they've got really good pieces in place. But to me, the most important domino to fall this entire year, calendar year, was the fact Brent Venables did enough in 25 to come back in 26. You did not want to be one of those programs right now, kind of like musical chairs, the last one standing with no coach because the pool dried up pretty quick. I mean, I liked Michigan's hire, getting Willingham or whatever his name is from Utah. I liked the guy. They were kind of forced into that. Beyond that, though, there wasn't a lot out there where you're like, man, this guy would be just so much better. OU fans need to be happy right now. You've got a stable athletic director, you've got a GM, and you've got a head coach that happens to be your DC. Oh, and by the way, your offensive coordinator is coming back next year. That hasn't happened too often under Brent Venables. So I like where this program is overall.
Yeah, I think that's exactly the best point. Stability.
Right.
They got that. And you know what, to be honest, that's probably the reason this hire is he's taken control. What, February 15th is when he's officially going to start. What they did in football this year is the reason this hire wasn't having to be rushed and wasn't done December 15th. Because whoever the new athletic director was going to be, if they had to do a football coach hire, they were going to have to pull the trigger a little quicker. So, in a way, maybe that's another reason this could end up being a good hire. They had more time to really analyze candidates, and figure out who they want. They weren't like in that spot where, oh, this is going bad. It's mid-October and we know the direction this is heading, and they had to hurry up and name a guy. This gave them time to really analyze things and I think get their guy. We'll know in a few years if it's the right guy, but no, that's going to be that way with any athletic director. That's the one thing I'll say. To me, athletic directors, more than coaches, take time. And to be honest, if say Porter's the only guy that has to go this year, he makes a good hire. If you're Oklahoma and you're the fan base, we're not going to have to know what this guy does hiring wise for a long time because every other program is stable. So I mean, that's the thing. you may not even need to worry about who this guy has connections with to hire or this or that because guess what? You're in a pretty good spot other than men's basketball.
Yeah, and boy, does that suck. We'll touch on that here in a little bit, and I'm not in the mood to get pissed off yet. But looking around OU, I mean, yeah, Patty Casso, Skip Johnson, Brent Venables, you've got really good coaches in place that are proven to this point that they're going to be here and around a while. You don't have to worry about. But to your point about coaches, like I can look at a DC in football and say, yeah, he's good. I can look at an offensive coordinator and say, yeah, he's good on the surface. An AD, you really can't do that until you see what they do at what school they went to. I think this guy is, look, he's not stupid. He graduated from law school. He's worked for Illinois. He's got a good grasp about what he does. So I have some trust with OU that they're not just going to hire some Joe Schmo off the street because he's got a legal background. I think they did their due diligence. They had time to do so because football wasn't a disaster. And they got the guy in that they wanted. Now, again, we can only speculate it's a good hire, and I think it is. That's what my prediction is going to be tonight in January of 26. We'll see what it is in years to come.
Yeah, I mean, and on the football angle, he's over. Was it 4 years? He's been over the football program at Illinois, or five, something like that.
Yeah, I think 4.
Look at it this way: that program was a mess with Lovie Smith. Whether you like Brett Bielema or not,
Yeah.
that ended up being a good hire. That program, is it on Oklahoma's level? Is it on Ohio State, Michigan, Indiana? No, it's not. But is it drastically better now than where it was when he started overseeing football? Yes. And I know that's the sport the Oklahoma fans, the majority of them worry about. That should at least give you confidence. Yeah, they didn't go hire an AD that just hired Nick Saban, but they hired a guy that was over a sport that has gotten drastically better since he started overseeing it.
Yeah, I mean it has. And look, there's only so much we can talk about with this guy. You look at his resume, you hear what he says, and then you make your determination. Again, fans that are like, who the hell is that? When I get it. I understand where you're coming from. Yeah, I mean, and you also look at teams like Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State that typically the last half decade have done better than Oklahoma on the football field. They're not set up in this way with a GM and a legal guy. So then you kind of scratch your head like, is OU doing the right thing? Well, again, there is no way for us to tell you. We'll just have to see if the proof is in the pudding, so to speak, Randy. But did also want to talk about the old portal. I don't know if you saw Dabo Swinney's epic rant pulling out receipts. Like Dabo is Dabo. He's done what he's done the last couple of years, but this I thought the guy was on point and had a legit complaint. That's kind of crap that's turning people off of college football right now.
No, and that's why I go back to Denny having a background with collective bargaining.
EBA.
The only way to stop some of this, it's going to be that way. Because Dabo can bitch all he wants. And I'm not saying he's wrong because he's not. But they're not employees, correct? I mean, they're getting paid just like an employee, but they're not a binding employee. So we're going to have to figure a lot out in college athletics, and it's going to ruffle some of the old codgers out there that are football fans or college athletics fans. But you're going to have to do something, or you're going to continue to see this. I mean, I bring up Mitzvah at Duke. If we don't think he was tampered with, I don't know what level of drunk you're on because it was 100% a tampering situation, especially when you knew instantly where he was going after that. And the only reason Miami tampered, they couldn't get their guy they wanted. They kept striking out, And so, yeah, I don't know. Like I say, I totally agree with Dabo, but until there's an enforcement arm that can do something, until probably that's not going to be until there is a CBA. Because how are you going to do it? Because let me tell you, we've talked about this on the program, and it's the one defense I've always had about the athletes. Hey, until the colleges want to guarantee a guy a 2 or 3 year scholarship at that school and not getting cut year to year,
yeah.
Guess what? I don't care what NIL you sign. It's not going to be guaranteed either. Because those kids are going to go, oh, I got a better offer over here. I don't care that you're already paying me $1.5 million. I'm going to go make 2. It's the way it is. That's why there's going to have to be some structure to this, and it's going to have to be sooner than later.
Well, it's going to have to, because what you just said is what happened in this instance. I think Luke Farrelly is the kid name. He's sitting in class, already enrolled at Clemson. and gets a text from Old Miss's head coach Pete Golding that says, "Hey, we're going to up your offer here from 1 million for a year to 2 years, 2 million." And the next thing you know, he's texting Dabo, "Yeah, I'm good. I'm committed, quote unquote." And then the compliance office texts Dabo, "Hey, this kid's over here. Hop in the portal." And the next thing you know, he's gone. His agent plays stupid midair and is like, "Oh, what? I can't believe it." Yeah, my ass. But that's a lot of stuff wrong with college football. But you can't blame, and I hate to say this, you can't blame the kid. You can't blame the agent. And you can't really blame the coach if it's legal. Dabo's saying he's going to pass this on and turn him in. I'm thinking, to who? The NCAA? That's laughable. There is no enforcement arm right now. I don't really know how to stop it besides a CBA, and I hate to admit that.
It's true. I mean, it's the only thing that's going to, and it won't even fix it, but at least there'll be some stability.
Right.
You know, and I think at the end of the day, I think if you just had college stability at college athletics, and I don't care what sport it is, because we always focus on football, but this goes on in every sport in college right now. You know, but until there's some stability, I think we're going to go through this all the time, year in and year out. I don't care who you try to turn it into, Dabo. Guess what? It's going to happen because I'm not saying Dabo's done it because he's behind the times on the portal anyway. Every coach that wants to bitch about it, I will bet you they had some form close to the same thing that they've done. Everyone's doing it. It's just
Yeah,
who
and
gets
it's
caught and
in
who
every
gets burned.
sport. It's in
Yeah.
every sport. I mean, we know college baseball like the back of our hands. We know it's happening there. Too many stories to get into, but all right, that crap depresses me talking about. All right, now on to some portal additions for Oklahoma. We've kind of looked at these dudes since they committed to OU, and then we talked about what their needs would be, people they're losing. This defense, I still think, is going to be really good in 26. Elite. The depth is the only thing that kind of took a hit. Kenny, I have no idea how to say the last. Azuwalu, that came from UTSA. 6 tackles for losses, 3 sacks in like 10 games. This guy, to me, is the most underrated pickup of the entire portal season for Oklahoma as an interior defensive lineman, losing Grayson Holton. He was huge, Randy. Not a lot of stats, but the disruption he got pretty much every snap. I think that's a guy that can look at. Very underrated pickup. No doubt. And it kind of goes back to what you were talking about. The depth was hurt. Not only did you lose the guys you knew you were going to lose because of graduation and everything, but losing a strong who you thought that would be a guy that would step in and be that mid guy that could give Jackson and them a break. This guy's one of those guys that's going to fill that, and the talent they have on the front line of this, as far as Jackson and Stone and everything, that's what allows them to take a little bit of a flyer on the UTSA guy. They don't need him to come in and be a superstar. They need him to come in and play good and be serviceable. And that's why it looks like he's got a pretty good upside. So why not take this chance on this guy? Yeah, I completely agree. The coaches agreed. I mean, you watch him on film. He had no star, wasn't very highly recruited out of high school. None of that crap matters if you actually perform in college football. That is kind of where I like the portal, because you can prove yourself on the field, not to a bunch of nimrods standing around watching high school football that have no idea what they're talking about. Moving on down the list, Dakota Fields, I think, a cornerback from Oregon, was another very underrated, sneaky pickup. Maybe some discipline issues at Oregon. Dan Lanning didn't really like his system. You got to think with guys like Brent Venables, Jay Valai over him, he can kind of come into his own at Oklahoma. The guy's talented, no doubt about that, and that will help with the depth they lost. Gentry Williams out the door, the transfer portal. If he ever stays healthy, he'll be good. I don't see it, but I like that pickup just due to depth, what we're talking about. Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I like the pickup for a lot of reasons. He's athletic. Has he done much at the college level? No, but he's a sophomore. Will be. He was a guy very highly thought of out of high school. He's the guy that when you hear they still give the high school ratings, on this transfer, I still listen to a little. Now, if you're a senior and you're transferring in, they go, was a 5-star. I'm kind of going, well, I don't know about that, Yeah.
But a guy like Fields, I think that's one to give you a positive vibes on. And I hate losing Gentry Williams. I really, really do. You and I both said he's a major, major talent. But sometimes you just need a new start. He's been so banged up, and I'm like you, I don't expect him to be healthy. I hate that it's at Georgia, but it's also, it's good for him. Get away. I think Oklahoma fans need to appreciate everything Gentry did for them here because he had a lot of good moments at Oklahoma. Just unfortunately not enough because of the injuries.
We always thought, man, if he could stay healthy and on the field, I thought he was a day one NFL guy. I mean,
Yeah.
6'2", size, speed. He can make excellent run support, great in pass coverage. I'll always think of him with that 2023 OU Texas game where he stepped in front of a Quinn Ewers pass, second play of the game, and that kind of turned the tide of that one, man. I hated to see him go, but I like the Fields pickup. And then, look, this one, I think a lot of people saw it and who he's related to, and was like, oh, that's a cute story. A couple beers at OU, blah, blah, blah. This dude's a baller. 6'5", 250, 7 touchdowns for Colorado State, almost 400 yards. He's an inline blocker. He's big enough to do that, but he's also a massive threat in the passing game. That is another very underrated pickup for OU.
To be honest with you, I think all three tight ends they picked up are kind of all. None of them are superstars going to set the world on fire as far as with people just reading about them. I think they're all three really solid pickups and can do things. To your point, Beers is already a pretty good receiving tight end that we've seen with his numbers at Colorado State. The kid from Florida, heck of a blocking tight end. And I've read things from scout people that think he may be the highest level guy because they think he can do more in the catching game. And then the freshman from Tennessee, my goodness. I mean, that's a pretty good haul to think about it. That rebuilds a tight end room instantly, along with Ryder Mix that's coming in, and there's another kid that's a high school kid coming in. I mean, you got 5 serviceable tight ends now.
Yeah.
You could say that.
All you have to do is get rid of Joe John Finley and magic happened. Well, it's kind of funny, the Tennessee guy. The only thing I remember him for was the fourth down play, right? Up in Knoxville where he got doinked off the face mask from
the like, great, that guy.
He was already doing OU favors, not even playing for the Sooners. That was a bad pass. It was a bad design. He didn't have time to get his head around, but a lot of people, when he committed, were like, oh, yeah, he can't catch. Watch it. No, it wasn't that. He's a good athlete. And all those guys can run block. And I think that's where we'll see, hopefully, see the fruits of this labor kind of pan out, because that's been missing, being able to get the edge in the run game, man. You just hadn't seen it for a couple of years at Oklahoma. A guy that'll be following that, maybe not. Lloyd Avant, speaking of Colorado State, a whopping 1.9 yards per carry average in college. They go out and get this guy. He's not going to be the running back room or make much of a splash, but I think he'll be some depth in that room, which I guess is always good.
Well, the reason I actually like it, we see the receiving room, and I think it's really in a pretty good spot. You know, you don't want to take him out of it, but maybe not all the time. Does it have to be Satania on the return game? Because Avant, what he did do a lot at Colorado State was special teams in the return game, and it was pretty good. Because do you really want your number one receiver out there? I don't care how dangerous he is.
Nope.
Every punt return, every kickoff return, risking injury. I mean, punt returns are maybe one of the most dangerous things to get injured on. It's like, hey, if you can bet Avon back there, from let's say 80% of the game, and when you think you need that big electric return and you want to put Isaiah in there, fine, put Isaiah in there. But maybe that's what Avon can do, and maybe that's another reason they brought him in. Take a flyer on a guy that's a pretty good athlete and done it at other spots on the field, and if he helps you in the running back room, bonus, But if he can at least save some hits on Satania, yeah, not a bad pickup because you got him cheap, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure you did. Look, I agree with that. Any OU fan going back to, I think, the 08 season, DeMarco Murray hurt on a kickoff return and missed the Florida game, the national championship. He made a difference.
Yeah, they don't want it. Right now, I stand by that to this day.
Yeah,
out of all the title games,
stopped on fourth and goal like twice from the one when DeMarco Murray's a career leader and touchdown. The guy had a nose from the end zone. He gets it. Yeah, I don't want to rehash that. But the point is, kickoff returns are dangerous. You don't want your best wide receiver, one of the best in the SEC, fielding everyone. So on that, I guess I agree. But overall, that tells me they like their running back room. Xavier Robinson and Troy Blaylock, a couple guys that if they're healthy, that's a big if always. But I do too. I think these guys can shoulder the load. The offensive line in front of them should be better. The guy they got from Arkansas, I guess, already admitted going to play tackle, right? So that allows Foje to slide to guard. Then you say EPL and Mike Vasusi. That's a lot of pretty good pieces up front to work with experience and talent. Then you throw in these tight ends to boot, and what Mateer can do in the run game is kind of having to keep an eye on both. And you got a couple of really explosive backs. One that between the tackles, very hard to get down, also has speed. And then Blaylock. One thing I wish I'd have seen last year just once is him hit the open field for a long run, because nobody's going to catch this guy if it happens.
Yeah, wait. Closest thing was the Temple game before he got hurt.
Yeah.
Remember, he got hurt in that game, and he
Yep.
had a long run in that game, and that was his best game. And I think you're right. That's positive. Plus, we didn't mention Hatton, the true freshman coming in,
True.
who looked really good in the high school American game. I mean, he's a kid. So, yeah, they've got depth. They've got talent. Let's see what happens. I mean, who knows at this point in time, but I kind of like where they're at overall in offense. Now, when we say that, it's a little different when we're talking about this January 26th, when we were talking about defense in January 25. We knew a lot of the knowns.
Right.
Right now, there's things that look really good on paper, but they're unknown to Oklahoma on the offensive side. That's the only, I think, difference when comparing this year's offense going into next year than last year's defense going into the past season. We knew what they had on defense. We'd seen almost all those guys perform. We haven't seen all these guys perform at Oklahoma, like the tight end position, the kid from Arkansas coming in at tackle. There's some unknown variables, but at the same time, it looks like they're pretty good variables.
Yeah, I agree with that. And the key, right, is the signal caller, John Mateer, is all offseason. OU fans are going to be asking themselves, was it a broken hand midseason, or was it some other stuff down the stretch that made him look pretty bad? And look, I've defended the guy till I'm blue in the face, both on the franchise and right here. He didn't have a lot to work with on offense, Randy. They asked him to shoulder a whole lot of the load, both in the run game and the throw game. You had one wide receiver that defenses pretty much had to respect. That was Isaiah Satania. Not really anything at tight end. You had a glorified slot guy out there at Jaron Canick that they had to cover. Once they took those guys away, though, there wasn't a lot of options for number 10. Then, yes, throw in the fact you got a broken hand. But still, there were things down the stretch, troubling, bailing out of the pocket early, causing holding penalties and eliminating half the field with really good defensive backs that you can look at and be like, yeah, he's got to get better. But I think the faith and optimism would be year 2 in the SEC. Quarterbacks usually take a jump. You can go back and research a lot of dudes that got better in year 2 and think it was the broken hand and he'll get better and take a jump next year.
Yeah, and I think for optimism, you can say it was the broken hand too, or feel pretty good that maybe it was the broken hand. When you let's just compare 2 games: Alabama and Tuscaloosa, Alabama and Norman. When he had more time, a couple of weeks off, that was not the same John Mateer that played right after the broken hand through the rest of the regular season. It looked better. Now, granted, was that a one-off? I don't know, but it also looked a lot like what the first 3 games of the season did. So that's where, if you're an Oklahoma fan, you should have at least a little belief and confidence that, hey, you know what? I think maybe it was the broken hand. Because you look at the 3 games before the broken hand, granted, were they the greatest opponents? No,
Right.
Michigan's pretty good. But then you look at that Alabama game where he played pretty well. Those 4 games were different than the rest of the year. So you at least have 2 decent opponents to go by, Michigan and Alabama, where you go, hey, maybe it was the broken hand. Not making him a Heisman contender, but just being a really good quarterback.
And that's what they need, man. They don't need this guy to be Ryan Leaf at Washington State and put up 5,000 yards with this defense, and you got Tate Sandell banging 90-yard field goals on the reg. You just need to be pretty good and move the chains in this offense. And I keep going back. The first 3 games they won, and John Mateer had good numbers. The last second drive to beat Auburn, who also has a pretty good defense. And then Michigan, right? You're like, yeah, he looks good. The broken hand happens, and the rest looks like what it looked like. But I keep going back to the fact he did not have a lot of help offensively. If you can't turn around and hand the ball off to a running back consistently and have them get, 3-4 yards, the 2 teams that just played for the national championship, last Monday, they were there because they could do that. They can run the football when they want, not being dictated by the defense. Oklahoma was nowhere close to that. The amount of pressure that puts on a quarterback every snap, and oh, by the way, they're playing really good defenses every single week in the SEC. By the metric, I think 15 of the top 50 they played this year. So that's a lot to shoulder for a guy in his first year in this league coming from a pretty bad schedule at Washington State. So there are a lot of reasons you can look at and have optimism. He's going to take a step next year. How big of a step does he need to take? I don't think that big, Randy. Stop turning the ball over, right? Have a run game, make completions that are there, and I think they'll be pretty good again.
Exactly. That's why I think when you look at the preseason, way too early rankings, that the people put out, Oklahoma's fallen in everyone's top 10.
Yeah.
It's because I think everyone does look exactly what we just talked about. Some of the things from early this season in the Alabama game. Hey, this John Mateer can do it at this level, you know. And to your point, he doesn't have to do Sam Bradford level numbers. He's just got to be a really good quarterback and not turn the ball over. They're going to be in a good spot. So it's kind of unusual, and I know Oklahoma fans need to brace themselves. They're going to be in it again next year. Are they going to be in the playoffs? We don't know, but they're going to be in that race in the month of November to make the playoffs, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And look, this team, I think, in 26 has a chance overall to be better than the team we just watched lose to Alabama and have a worse record, right? I mean, down the stretch, there were things that happened in November. It's kind of risky if you're pitting winning on going on the road in the SEC and forcing 3 turnovers, including your defense scoring a touchdown and making 55-yard field goals, 3 of them on the road in front of 100,000, 20 million more on TV. That's a pretty big ask to think that's going to translate every year. But that's kind of where I'm getting at with John Mateer in a run game. If they can carry their own weight and actually score points, this defense won't have to be heroic like you had to be in November last year.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing. You've made the point time and time again about no running game, no help. You're putting literally everything on Mateer's shoulders in the first year in the SEC.
Right.
He may even be more equipped for that if everything is on his shoulders next year again. Second year, used to it, knows what's going on, knows the speed of the SEC defenses and everything else. So, I mean, it's just finding ways mentally to improve. That's all he really needs to do.
Yeah, and don't break your hand
mid-season. Yeah, that's the biggest thing. That's the biggest thing. We can talk a lot because I think there's still one domino out there still. Unless I missed it, I know with the icy weather, I've been on social media and everything all weekend long, so I haven't seen it. The receiving coach, that may be one domino to fall still, because Emmett Jones' contract's up.
Yeah. Are you really wanting to retain what you've not seen so far? If you're Oklahoma, I wouldn't.
I know it's interesting. I mean, but at the same time, what's interesting, you went through the portal season, you've done all this, and he's still on your staff. To be honest, I'm almost to the point I think he's coming back, because if you were going to do that, why wouldn't you have done it like what you did with Joe John Finley? With trying to make a splash, in the portal to, convince kids and start the recruiting. Heck, we're way into the recruiting cycle for 27 already.
Yeah, I know, man. Look, if I'm Oklahoma, I'm making a change regardless. You've got the guys in from the portal that you wanted to get. They're on campus. At least they're committed. Whatever. However it works now, they're yours. Parker Livingston.
Nowhere now. Luckily, there's not another portal window.
Yeah. So, I mean, typically, I think they're good this time of year to say, yeah, Parker Livingston. The Virginia kid, Terrell, I forget his last name. He's pretty good.
Harris, yeah.
So, I mean, you got them. Now, look, Emmett Jones, he brought in the Zion Reagan, Zion Kearney. Have we seen a lot of development there, enough to say, yeah, he's worth keeping around? No, we have not. So anybody can come in now and coach these kids they just got from other programs. Isaiah Satania, by the way, was just that last year coming from Arkansas, and then turns out to be the best wide receiver on the roster. Thank God they got him. I would have hated to see that offense without him. But the point is, I think anybody can do that job now. Elijah Thomas coming back, highly touted freshman we heard everything about preseason and never actually saw in a game, also returning next year. Ivan Carrion announces he's coming back. That shocked me. I don't know if he put his name out there. Well, he did. I don't know if he didn't get what he wanted coming back, so he's like, I've got no choice. But I've always liked this guy. He led the bowl game against the Navy, receptions and yards. He's 6'6", which is something you don't see at wide receiver every day, a big target. And he couldn't see the field, Randy. I mean, the thing with Emmett Jones with me, if you're not a transfer, you just don't play. And that, to me, speaks to lack of development.
Yeah, no, I mean, it is interesting to see in that regards, because I mean, not a young receiver in the last several years has really come through the program, and that is a concern, and but like I say, I just don't know at this late notice. Are they doing anything? I mean, I guess just the timing doesn't make a lot of sense. Not that other coaches wouldn't leave to come to Oklahoma, but you're even to a spot in the calendar with coaching hiring and firings. Coaches have logged back into their job. I mean, like, what is his name? LaDainian Washington, I think. He would have been a guy I thought maybe if you got rid of
Yeah.
Emmett Jones, he was the interim receivers coach before Emmett Jones was hired, went to South Florida, was very successful there, and actually just took the job at Auburn, with them there. And, I would have thought that would have been a guy. But he just, not saying he wouldn't leave Auburn to come here if OU wanted to go back and get him. But it's like you got guys that have just now taken new jobs, taking new spots. And it's like, that's kind of where it's like, where did they go? Is there another wild card out there like a Jason Witten that maybe that's what they're looking at and trying to get that all solidified? That's just my big question mark right now.
Yeah, is CeeDee Lamb going to retire as coach, join Jason Witten, DeMarco Murray? I don't know. Look, it's pretty clear why they kept DeMarco Murray. I didn't want him to come back, but he is, and it probably helped lure his buddy Jason Witten, and that has paid off with getting a lot of good tight ends and really for OU. Not to mention the fact his kid is a 5-star linebacker in the future, wink, wink, which won't hurt his chance of ending up in Norman playing for Brent. So we'll see what happens there. Either way, players, Jimmys and Joes, not X's and O's, win football games, and I think they've got the guys in those spots they've won. Didn't want to talk about the defense a bit. Sam Omasigo out the door. Kobe McKenzie, who you and I raved about for years. I'm kind of sad to see him go off to Northwestern. That, the depth takes a hit. Heineke, we await and kind of find out what's going to happen there. They do get the Michigan linebacker. I really like that pickup to slide in and play next to Kidd. But, I mean, the depth overall, it took a hit. Grayson Holt and Dominic Williams up on the front. Those just weren't two dudes that you rolled out there for depth and give people a breather. They were legit game wreckers. And that front four, along with David Stone, Jaden Jackson, is what separated this defense to me from everybody else. They won't have that next year. That's still to say. I think they're going to be very elite and hopefully have more help on the other side of the ball, Randy. But the back end to me, Robert Spears-Jennings not there, Peyton Bowen back, Eli Bowen back. They've got more than enough pieces to be one of the best defenses in college football yet again.
Agreed. And I think here's the one not positive, but thing when you talk about depth. If there was a time to have those guys move on, as far as just losing all their eligibility and they're done, I think they legitimately have two, let's just say between the two of them, a first and a second rounder, if not 2 first rounders. They're going to lead that front, Jaden Jackson and David Stone, and it's their junior year. It's the year that I like to call money year. I expect really big years. Maybe it's good that in a way, as great as the depth was last year, that you just get a couple of guys in there that can go in and say, hey, David, Jaden, you're playing 80% of the snaps. We need you guys just to go in and fill in 20% of those snaps. Because you're going to want those two on the field at all times when it's crunch time, And so who knows? In the end, maybe that's kind of a blessing in disguise, to make sure those two guys are the ones on the field when it's crunch time in those big key situations. You'd like to have a little more depth, but you don't. But at the same time, I think when you look at the portal and some of the guys you lost, the guy I feel bad for, and I think you and I talked about it in my office last week, Sammy Osamigo. I feel so bad for him. I would love to have a truth serum in him and know the whole behind the scenes things. I feel like he's a guy that probably had somebody in his ear telling him, "Hey, dude, they're bringing in this other guy from Michigan. Somebody's going to pay you big. Get in the portal. Get out of there." And I'm not saying he didn't get paid going to UCLA. He may have gotten more money, but the reason it leads me to believe bad advice was his second statement that he put out after he'd been in the portal, that he is leaving Oklahoma and Oklahoma would always be home to him, blah, blah. Dude, you didn't need the second statement. You were in the portal. And I'm not hating on him, but that just reminded me of a kid going, holy crap, I'm not going back to where I wanted to be.
Ugh.
I played with fire and I got burned, you know? And I mean, isn't that what it sounded like to you?
Yeah. Yeah, it did. And look, we talked about this ad nauseum. If you're a linebacker, if you're a defender in this defense, you're going to play. It doesn't matter if you start or not. You're going to get out there and make plays. And he was in line to play a lot in a very good defense with a coach that sent a bunch of dudes to the league at his spot. Not to mention the fact they let lose Kendall Daniels starting Cheetah. That spot, Sam Omasigo has played quite a bit. Would have rotated there probably with Reggie Powers some. I mean, that might have been the case. The kid got bad advice, and now he is having buyer's remorse going off to UCLA. I don't know. It stunned me him leaving, to be honest, because everything I just said was right in front of him at a place he obviously loved. But that is one spot that's going to take a hit. I mean, Kendall Daniels gone, Omasigo gone. I love Reggie Powers and what he did there. Boganowski maybe working some at Cheetah as well. I mean, they got some options to work with. But look, I can't overstate how big Kendall Daniels was to that Cheetah spot. How long they've looked for a guy big enough to come up and run support, yet can drop back in pass coverage. He was finally it.
I was going to say, I think out of everyone we mentioned, and there's big losses, I think Daniels is the biggest loss
Yep.
because for the
Yep.
first 4 years of this team, everyone was like, who's playing Cheetah? And it was Dolby did pretty good at it, the year before until he got hurt in that Tennessee game. He was doing really good. But it's like, then Daniels comes in and he was just like a miracle worker for them, and it gave him, it was kind of like, that's the final piece to this puzzle. And that's when you saw this defense get get over. And I like Reggie Powers, I like Boganowski. I think they can probably fill that role. But the level Daniels was playing at, it's going to be interesting to see if anyone can play up to that level next year.
Yeah, with the size, man. I mean, 6'5" that can run. They don't grow on trees. That's why it took 4 years to find one. And they had to go out in the portal and do it. Yeah, look, between the players they have, I think they'll be able to fill it. Reggie Powers and Boganowski probably subbing in on down and distance. Dependent passing down versus running down. We'll see what they do there. Taylor Wine, another guy up front we haven't talked about coming back. Going to expect to take a monster leap. And then the Cruel Crowell, whatever his name is, true freshman coming off the edge. They lose Marvin Jones Jr. or Mason Thomas. I mean, these guys coming in along with Taylor Wine. I'd expect our guy PJ Adibeore maybe taking a step off the edge after he took a peek in the portal, decided the grass was not greener, and is going to run it back at Oklahoma. Maybe he finally turns it on. He looked to me this year like he was starting to, man. A couple games, I'm like, oh, that's why we kept hearing about this dude. Maybe he puts it together next year off the edge, becomes a complete player. If he does, that's another weapon. I mean, just take a look top to bottom what they have coming back, how many snaps they have combined. There's no reason to think they're going to take a huge step back. And once again, if the offense can just be above average, right? Stay on the field some in the second half, they won't need that depth we keep talking about losing because the guys won't be on the field the entire second half.
And it may be one of those things, maybe they have more depth than we realize. You know what I mean? Some guys get out there that have developed, that have redshirted, that, took very few snaps, different things like that because the way they rotate in, that's at least the good part about all the rotating that they do. Even if you got a really good player, he's not having to go out there and play 80% of the snaps for the most part.
Right.
Hey, you got to be really good for 20%. You got to be really good for 15 plays. Go out and fill that gap for me, especially some of those spots that we're talking about, And so that's kind of where it's like, it's not going to be the same level of depth, but they may have better depth than we realize, and it's just going to be waiting to see these guys perform. Once the season gets going next year, and we're not going to know anything after spring because no one's going to see anything. I mean, let's be
Nope. No, all behind closed doors. We'll hear whispers, right? And availability. We'll try to get us little tweets out about stuff, but no, we won't know until they take the field. There's one thing. Oh yeah, the national championship. I think I was on with Matt and Tyler that day. We kind of talked about that. I had a guy from VSiN on, and we were talking about the spread. And I said, yeah, I think Miami is going to play them tough. I mean, they got really good lines of scrimmages, and Vegas isn't that far off. Typically, and it was a good game, man. It was a damn good game. The block punt ended up being the difference. But where I wanted to go with that, a lot of people talking about Indiana and being here now, and they're going to stay on top. Not so fast there. You look at the way this team was constructed, how many guys had 3 and 4 year starters, played a lot of football. Then oh, by the way, happen to go out and get Mendoza, the perfect quarterback for the perfect system they run. Oh, by the way, in a year, there's not that juggernaut out there. Ohio State, good, not great. Georgia said about the same thing. It was the perfect storm for Indiana to come through and win this thing. I'm not taking anything away from them. Awesome story, one of the greatest turnarounds in the history of sports. But any OSU fan out there going, "Oh, look at all the transfers Morris is getting," it's typically not that easy, and it's very hard to sustain being there and doing it that way this day and age.
No doubt. And I think the other thing, and I think Signetti's a great coach, fabulous coach. So I'm not taking away, but he's a very hard ass coach. You can tell by the
Yeah,
way he does it. And you talk about it. A lot of those 3, 4 year guys followed him from James Madison. So they were used to this. They're going to start recruiting a different level of player. And we all know stars. We all know the guys that have the big stars and expect certain things.
yeah,
Even though they won a national title, like Nick Saban was still able to get away with that, even at the end of his career, being that hard ass, because he had multiple rings. Are guys going to take that when he starts recruiting not the diamonds and the roughs, when he starts getting the big time guys in there, which they're starting to get some? Are they going to take that, or are they going to be like, F you, I'm out? And in the portal after 1 year. I mean, that's, I think, the new dilemma Indiana's got, because unfortunately for him, he's not coming from a program where he's bringing a lot of guys that are very good, solid players that have played under him for a couple of years and really just like him. Because I'll be honest,
right.
I, I just, other than winning, if I was a kid, I'd be like, fuck this grumpy old man. I'm not going to set and spin. I'm going to go play for Dan Lanning. I'm going to go play for Brent Venables. I'm going to go play for Steve Sarkisian. Guys that look like, oh, I don't know, they have a fucking personality.
Yeah, man. Look, I was texting buddies. I think I texted you that night. The whole thing around Signetti wore off pretty fast. I mean, the no facial expression, the constantly having to look like it. I mean, just a dick on the sideline for no reason when you're having fun. The game's fun, right? That's what football's supposed to be. He didn't look like he has any, and yeah, we'll see how good. I think personally they'll go back to 8-4, 7-5, maybe have a good year, 9-3. It's just not that doesn't happen every year. But hey, again, hats off to them. The 30 for 30 behind the scenes on how that happened. I can't wait to watch one of these days. It's going to be fascinating. Something not fascinating, Randy. I had to go there last.
Do you want to talk about the other good thing real fast? The women's program.
Please.
The women's program.
Oh, yeah, man. How about the win over South? I did not see that coming. That's why you go out and get a player like Chavez, right?
Chavez and Bears both. I mean, you look at them for the women's program. The reason I want to give it up to them is because we're going to talk about the men that are on a losing streak. Women had lost 3 in a row. Really hard fought losses. We're just like kicking the teeth, especially that Kentucky loss with a young player, but, could have folded their tent at some point in time. But the way they came out against South Carolina, and I like the way Don Staley said it, and this is why Oklahoma fans should really feel good about this team and the direction it's going, and it's going to kind of lead me into the men's talk here too. Don Staley didn't act like they gave it away. They said Oklahoma made winning plays. That's why they won the game. That's what coaching will do. That's what, getting kids to believe in a system and what they do. And that's what Jenny's got going on right now. I mean, you look at what they did, because it would have been easy for them to fold up their tent Sunday in that game against not a great team. God, it just lost my mind. I watched the entire game. Who the hell did they play Sunday? They won it. I lose.
South Carolina?
No, Sunday they played on the road. My God, I'm an idiot. Auburn.
Auburn, yeah, okay.
I watched the entire game. But it's like, that would have been one of those easy after the huge win over South Carolina to lay an egg. And they didn't play great. They had moments where it's dead, but they found a way to win and kind of get over that hump, and that's just part of coaching and a belief, and Chavez is a freak. I think she's great. She's lived up to every bit of what people talked about her. She's currently, I think, leading the country in scoring as a freshman. Not the country, but freshman players, leading the scoring. She's played fabulous. Reagan Beers is fabulous right now. And this team has a belief. It's something the men don't have. And the reason I'm going to lead into this, the women have had 2 crowds in a row greater than anything the men have had. And I'm not defending the Lloyd Noble Center, but it's like that always seems to be Porter's go-to crutch.
Yeah.
And everything. I can't, it's a horrible arena. It's not great. Not defending it. But guess what? They sold it out for a women's game. And then that game against South Carolina, a 6 o'clock start, I think there was like 8,000 fans. Again, 2 games in a row, back to back, more fans than have maybe shown up at men's games combined this year. And that's more to say about where the program is, not even as much about the arena. And I hate that fans like to try to get Porter that as an excuse right now, and it's not.
No, it's not. You just said the word belief, right? Yeah, the OU women, they have it. And the fans that go to support them, they have a belief that they're going to not walk out of the LNC pissed off of what they just watched. Fans of the men's team, they don't have that belief. And they think when they go, they're going to leave pissed off because that's what you've seen under Porter Mosier for the most of the time he's been at Oklahoma. This move should have been done 2 years ago after the 23 season. They start off 10-0. Do not make the NCAA tournament. They didn't do it. Now it's time to rip the Band-Aid off. That program is dead until he's gone. I saw the game last week. Bad luck, whatever, snake bit. It's him in a nutshell. It's happened every single year. Rough losses down the
People can
stretch.
rip me whatever they want to say. It's bad coaching. The one at the end of overtime, not bad coaching. I mean, that's just the guy made a great shot to win the game. You don't want a three.
Well, it was pretty easy to get down the court to shoot it, though. I'll say that.
But I'm just saying that's not that one. I don't even blame as much. Letting the guy even start to get a 3-point shot off.
When you're up three, yeah.
No. And I know everyone goes, well, it's a continuation. You hack him as soon as he hits mid-court strike. Before he's even thinking about jacking the shot, because there was plenty of time. He was not going to jack it from mid-court. As soon as he gets to mid-court, you hack him and go hit your 2 free throws. I'm out.
Yeah. Look, I agree with that. It's coaching, but it kind of gets back to where I was going with Porter, though. It's just he loses. The guy loses game. You can point to how many different ways can a guy lose. We've seen it all with. And look, I love Porter, man. This guy off the court is the dude. I mean, I've talked to him when I was covering basketball for you guys on the floor. He's very nice. He's very charming. If there was a guy you'd want to see succeed, it would be him. But the simple truth is, it hasn't succeeded. And this program and the fan base, they are checked out of men's basketball. The LNC, we've seen it rocking, Randy. You know they were there to rock about? A team that was winning basketball games. That will always put asses in the seats. He's not done it enough. So I don't hear that as an excuse either. But the women's team, man, that win against Auburn after South Carolina showed me they're taking steps, everything that we thought when they got Chavez of what that would do to a program that we thought was right there on the edge, right? Going from good to great, that would do it. They're taking steps to get there. They beat South Carolina. You go on the road in the SEC and you follow it up with a win. Yeah, that points to everything the men's team is not. The right trajectory, the right people in place, making decisions. They've got it going. The men's team, they've got to do something, Randy. I assume they'll wait until the season's over. I'm not sure it makes much of a difference at this point. But, I mean, they've got to salvage something. The fan base, they're not going to check back in and invest anything, emotions, money, nothing, until there is a belief it's going to get better. That belief is not there with Porter Mosier.
Well, no doubt. And it's kind of funny. We had this conversation earlier about football. Porter's a hard ass. You can see the way he coaches those guys. He's a hard ass, right? And I said it earlier to someone, and it's not a slam when I'm going to say this, but people are going to take it. To me, Porter is a mid-major coach. And what I mean by that, he thrives at a Loyola. Because, maybe his best player will get poached out of the portal to go up to an SEC school or a Big 12 school, and everything. But at the end of the day, he's going to have 8-9 guys that stick on his roster for 4 years, where he can really develop the team and coach them up and be a hard ass to them. At places like Oklahoma, you're probably not going to have guys, if you're doing the right things, at least 8 or 9, they're going to be on that roster for 4 years. You may have your Dayton Forsythe that'll be there for your entire career, which is a really good player, but one of those isn't enough to maintain success. And part of that is his coaching style. And that's why I think it's going to be really interesting to see what they do. Because there's only one way you can coach that way yet, like Porter does at a major school. You've got to be uber successful where guys know, A, I'm going to come and win a lot of games, and I'm going to make the NBA. Right now, he's got not winning a lot of games and one guy in the NBA that would have gone to the NBA regardless. That's his track record. And that's, I think, what hurts Porter right now. And I don't want to hear the NIL either, Dave, because 6.5 million, right? That's
Yeah.
invested in that's 3.5 million behind Texas, and that's a lot of money, in several schools. But at the same time, put together a team. I see other teams
Yeah.
win games that probably have a smaller NIL than Porter. That's part of okay. I got to go find my diamonds in the rough, and when I have them, you know what you don't do? You let them play and develop and be really good players, not let them transfer out and go to Vanderbilt, which I know he got more money there, but he's already playing better, Duke Miles, at Vanderbilt than he ever played at Norman.
Too many of those throughout the. I mean, Otega Owe, decent player, and Milo Susan. I mean, you just go down the list every single year. It's like he has to rebuild this roster. He cannot retain guys, and that also has been a huge issue. Sure, the money plays in, but hey, Trae Young, $1 million gift this year, that came in handy. And this roster, Randy, really isn't bad. It's just poorly coached. I think with an adequate coach, this team can win in the SEC. What they have assembled in Norman right, a lot of coaches out there would take this talent in Norman right now. It's just a dead program, and it will not change until they make a move with Porter Moser. Hopefully, that is sooner than later.
And I think we both, when we say win, neither one of us are saying this roster could win the SEC, but could it be middle of the pack?
Compete.
Could it be middle of the pack right now? And they're going to the NCAA tournament. 1,000%. That's, I think, to me, that is the glaring black mark right now against Porter. You've got a roster that's pretty good, pretty athletic. I mean, Nigel Pack, Brown, guards that can do some things. It's pretty crazy. Davis, I think, is really good. He's been pretty good. And you just can't put it together. That's where it comes down on the coaching side, not the NIL side, not the Lloyd Noble side. We can use and make excuses all we want. But at a certain point, you got to look and go, hey, a spade. This is coaching.
That's exactly right, Randy. And look, you and I for 3 years now have been talking about this. We wanted it to work for Porter. It's not, and this is the best roster I think he's had, top to bottom. Have there been a better players at one spot? Yeah, of course. Fears last year. Going back, Grant Sherfield, his first year was really good. But top to bottom, this roster I thought was going to take away a lot of excuses for Porter Moser because it's good enough to make the NCAA tournament and compete in the SEC. I don't think they're going to do either, and that's a bad look for Porter Moser.
Let me tell you, I looked at their schedule. What is Texas this week, and who's the other midweek?
Oh, God.
I don't have it in front of me. But, Dave, I think there's a legit shot they go 0-2 at home again this week because they're not beating Texas the way Texas is playing. I'd at least be a little shocked if they come out and win that game. And then I forget who they play tomorrow night. It's not – God, who is it? It's one of the decent teams.
Arkansas.
Yeah. They're not going to beat Arkansas. Not that Arkansas has had up and down moments this year, but the way Oklahoma plays, they're not beating Arkansas.
No.
I mean,
and how much belief, if there was any belief left in that locker room, how much just died in Columbia, Missouri? I mean, look.
How about the fact 2 Oklahoma high school kids that did it to them?
Oh, my God. It gets worse.
I mean,
yeah.
Barrett's first start, Edmond North kid, you didn't go get him. Okay. And then the kid that hit the 3 to tie it up, it was only shot he made, but he was a Tulsa kid.
It's time. Rip the Band-Aid off. First order of business for Denny needs to be find a new basketball coach at Oklahoma, for the love of God.
Brent, come on down from Illinois.
I would take that. Just to stay on that coaching search, a lot of people have said, go get an OU guy. Hollis Price, Quantus White. Exactly. Go get the best candidate. I think if you're a fan, you've watched football, try that. Seth Luttrell, Joe John Finley, DeMarco, look, just go get the best dude. Shut up about an OU guy.
How about this?
And win some basketball games in Norman.
Oklahoma's not Oklahoma State. You don't have to go find an alum. If they're there and they're worthy of it, 2 thumbs up. But that's one reason why I said last year, to me, was not good for Oklahoma to make the tournament. They should have made the move because I thought there were a lot of good young guys out there. Look at the McMullen guy at A&M. Have you watched A&M this year, that style they play? Back to money. Yeah, maybe they spent more in the portal in the end of the day, but also it's the style he plays. He can come in and win. And to be honest, for Oklahoma fans, that's a lot like the style Coach Tubbs at Oklahoma played, Lon Kruger played. It's very up tempo. It's very, get after you. There were guys like that you saw coming in. And that's the scary part to me right now for OU. Looking around the country, I don't know if I see a guy that's had enough success. You're like, oh, there's that young up and coming guy. Miami, Ohio is pretty good. They're undefeated this year, but is that long term success or is that a flash in the pan? Because that's also what you don't want to do. Go hire that guy that had one great year, but then you look at the rest of his track record, it's hot garbage because all that you're doing there is putting yourself 3 more years behind the 8 ball. So it's a very interesting hire for Denny in his first year and his first major hire at Oklahoma. Good news for him. That should be the only one he has to do.
It should. Boy, is it important, though, as Center's Cowboy to say, OU men's hoops suck. Yeah. We've talked ad nauseam about that. One last thing I'll say before we wrap it up. You brought up style of play, being fun for a fan base. The NIL might get better, Oklahoma, for basketball if the fan bases actually care to watch it and not some boring drain the shot clock for 30 seconds and hope that you're –
And Porter's played more up tempo this year, except in the good games. They don't play.
Except the good games. Yeah. It changes everything. It happens every year. Make a change. It's time. Get somebody the fan base will like and wins games, and watch what happens to both the LNC and the NIL. It will help both.
And how about this? Get somebody that cares more about the overall fan base than the total Greek system. Which Porter, he's done a great job about getting students to come out and everything because he's spent a lot of time there. But it doesn't feel like he, to me, devotes as much time towards actual fans as the students. And what you're getting back in return from the students, it's not enough to spend that much time on the students and not on the fans and what they want.
Yeah, I agree. Center Cowboy, hopefully mid-tier won't suck next season. Boy, oh boy, we spent half an hour at the first part of the show talking about reasons why he might and why OU fans should hope he does not. Check it out. It'll be out, right now. You can go back and watch it because I'm cold and I'm ready to hop in PJs and relax for the night. Randy, anything you want to wrap up with?
I think that's it. Just, hey, enjoy it. Softball starts a week from Thursday. Baseball starts 2 weeks from Friday.
That'll get a smile on my face.
We're here.
Yeah.
We're here.
We're here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just got to put up with OU basketball a few more weeks. Find something good to watch movie-wise when they play, and it'll get you to baseball.
Can I go with one more thing? How about this? Just again, because the Lloyd Noble excuse drives me nuts. And I already brought up the women's, and how I always say, and you said it earlier, winning cures a lot for people going. Last Friday, women's gymnastics moves their banner ceremony up from a night event to 2 o'clock to try to make sure people weren't on the roads, which was a smart move because the roads went bad about 7:30 or 8, right?
Yeah.
Middle of the afternoon game. Had 7,000, I think it was 6,000 or 7,000 fans show up for that game or that match at 2 o'clock. It was a sellout if they'd have had it at night. So don't tell me the Lloyd Noble is the reason fans don't go. You put a shit product on the floor, you get a shit result in attendance.
That's it. That sums it up. Summarization right there, Randy Heitz. He's really good at that. He's also good at logging off and then hanging out watching TV because that's what he's going to do now. Randy, enjoyed it. We'll catch up in a couple days, man.
See you, man.